and welcome to another episode of the Trinity Music Podcast. On today's episode, we have the first ever teacher as a guest on the podcast. Probably one of the most popular teachers in the school, I reckon.
Thank you.
Mr. Watson, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well. How are you?
Good, yeah. I've been looking forward to this for a wee while. When we started out this wee idea, I thought, we'll get some pupils on and we'll get see what they want to think about music. But I think having teachers on might be a way of maybe getting some more people interested. What's been going on anyway? Anything exciting?
Yeah, just keep working away, just doing all the usual things.
Chipping away
at it, making sure that everybody's happy,
excellent, and that's all we can do at the end of the day, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Good stuff. So the way this is going to work is that we're going to do a round that we've not done yet, a wee quick fire questions to get us started. Then, as we've done in previous episodes, we'll talk about your favourite songs, and we'll kind of drill into why you like them and all that sort of thing. Before we start this though, I've kind of known you for a wee while because obviously we work in the same place. So I also know that you're quite into music as a hobby and stuff like that. So how did you first get into it? What was the sort of spark for you?
So I've always really been into music for a long time, as far as I can remember. I remember probably since I was young, primary school age. My dad's a massive music fan, Mum not so much, but he kind of passed that on to me. Could see his passion for it, could see how he loved it, could see how he was always wanting to know more about music, and even though he was older, he's still wanting to get into new music, which is something that's I find very admirable, and it's something that I've taken on board and started to do myself throughout my life.
Nice. So was there music in your house growing up? Like, so would you have like records and stuff like that in the house and stuff, or in the car?
Yeah, absolutely. In the car, in the house, there's always been music around. There's always been people listening to music, new music being played to me. I was always experiencing new music and finding out what I liked and changing my genres, and that's why I've ended up with kind of a very eclectic
diverse
taste. Yeah, definitely.
And do they play like any instruments? Like, does your dad play?
So my dad plays the bass guitar.
Oh, nice.
I play the guitar.
I mind you saying that before. So did you learn that like through him? Did he teach you how to play a couple of chords, or did you just?
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of the first guitar I got, kind of those cowboy chords, learning the first three chords, learning a wee song or two, and then
the Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, all the Smoke on the Water, Seven Nation Army, all the classics. So then just getting into it from there, and then picking up bits and pieces off of different people throughout my life, friends, various different people.
Brilliant, fantastic. And I know you like going to gigs and stuff like that, and we'll touch more on that later when we talk about your songs, but brilliant, good. So what's going to happen is that this episode, we're going to do a wee quick fire thing that I think will go down quite well, and then we've got some other just the usual stuff like talking about the inner workings of the song and stuff and why you like it. So how many have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 quick fire questions, okay. Right? So you don't need to answer, like say quick fire, like just answer them in your own time. Right, so we're starting off nice and smooth, right? So nice and easy. So tea or coffee, what do you prefer?
See, Mr. Sully, you say that's easy, but that's not an easy question to answer.
That's
tea or
hard,
coffee? Yeah, so in work, coffee, because then I can be sharp and be doing everything I want. In the house, tea. Yeah. Don't touch coffee at home, don't touch tea in work. There's a very clear divide in between there. Is
that how you know that you're...
Yeah, I know I'm home and I know I've finished work once I'm having tea. And I know I'm in my work and started once I'm having coffee.
I totally agree, by the way. Coffee's the one to get you going, and tea's the one to just enjoy the sake of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Completely agree with that, actually. Do you have a preferred preparation method for tea?
So for tea, no sugar, just a splash of milk, that's all.
Good, that's the correct answer.
For coffee, I have it black.
No milk at all?
No milk at all, no. That was born out of necessity because it's always, as you probably know yourself, it can be a situation where you're in a workplace and there's no milk left, and then it just became... I kind of got a taste for it.
Yeah, there's often certain jobs like I've had before, like people bring their own milk, but they label the milk, so it's like only their milk, and it becomes quite an issue, actually.
Yeah, there's no communal milk, so you've got to just go for a black coffee, but then it became... I kind of got a taste for it, and then that's always my thing. But people always comment on it, other teachers and pupils always comment, oh, you got black coffee. But
yeah. I appreciate that you just go straight in, no messing about, boil the kettle, bang, in the cup. Next one, summer or winter? What do you prefer?
Summer.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, summer, definitely. Summer holiday.
It's good. That I say for teachers, that's...
Sitting out in the garden, great. It's just much better. In winter, you always end up ill in the first week of the holiday and things like that. It's just not what you need.
It's something so nice about how when we go home after this, it's going to be light for another 4 hours.
Yeah.
And you can actually do stuff after school now.
100%,
or whatever, go for a walk or go out on the bike, and it's still pleasant. Totally agree. So I think we've been in agreement in the first two. Mm-hmm. Next quick fire one, last meal on earth.
Right.
So is that different to your favourite meal? It's up to you how you want to answer it.
It's probably not different. I'd say steak. It's going to be steak.
Do you know something? I'm not just saying this. I totally agree with that as well. I know it
Steak.
seems
It's
like
got to be steak. Steak's something I wouldn't eat loads.
it's special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's special. You have it at your birthday. You have it when you're going out, but it's not something that I would go and buy in the supermarket.
It's not a
I'd like it to
bolognese,
be,
is it?
yeah, it's not a bolognese, no.
Yeah, literally, and
Yeah.
yeah. How do you like your sort of chips, mushrooms, peppercorn
Yeah, I
sauce?
like that. I love that. I love that.
I think that's the best. How do you prepare it? You're a medium rare guy?
I'm a rare guy.
Rare guy?
Rare guy, yeah. I really like it.
Well, it's still alive.
Yeah,
basically.
I like it still mooing when it comes out.
Next one. Favourite TV show?
Right, so at the present moment, I'm rewatching the show Suits. That's
right,
my,
aye.
so I'm going to have to say that. I don't know what I'd say because I watch a lot of TV, but what the thing I do is I tend to watch like 3-4 seasons and then stop watching and then move on to something different. But Suits is one that I've
like
always.
a bit of Suits,
I love it. Yeah, it's. I think it's a very watchable show and it's something you don't need to be intensely invested in. Because the shows that are amazing, like for the Wire, for example, the Newsroom, the West Wing, but I always feel I've got to be invested in them, and I've got to sit down and decide I'm watching this.
It's more of a shift, isn't it? You've got to like.
Whereas Suits is just you're sticking it on.
Comfort telly.
Yeah, comfort telly. You're putting it on. You can be flicking through Twitter or flicking through your phone or whatever. Doing any bit of work, and that's on in the background, and that's
Good.
brilliant.
I think you'd fit in well in the cast of Suits. You actually look like you could be in that show. That's a compliment, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it sort of influenced your design and fashion taste.
Thank you very much.
Next one. I think I know the answer to this one. What's your favourite sport?
Oh, football.
Football.
Football's my favourite sport. Yeah. I think football.
Played a bit when you were younger, didn't you?
Played a bit.
Not a
when I was
bad
young.
level as well,
No,
from what I believe.
A bit of a level, not much,
Yeah.
not a huge level. Not talk too much about that.
Yeah, aye.
We're sometimes playing the school afterwards as well.
Yeah, we had a couple of games this year, haven't we? It sort of petered out though.
Petered out a
There was
bit.
it was just a spell. I can't remember what time of the year it was. Maybe around October, where we got a couple of games back to
couple
back.
of games going, yeah. but-
And it was going well. Played against some of the 60ers as well. And
Yeah,
it was good,
really
actually really good.
Really
but it's
good
just
game.
sort of maybe need to reignite it at some point. But
Yeah, definitely.
I know, like obviously you follow it as well. I think that's I sort of appreciate this more as we get older. Like it becomes more of a release. Like
Definitely.
So when I was wee, I played more football. And
Yeah.
I probably knew more about it.
Yep.
But I just, it's like when you're young, you probably don't think as much about things.
Yeah.
But as you're getting older and you've got more pressures of life, stuff like football becomes more of an escape. And it's
Definitely,
just- you can't
definitely.
beat Saturday following the scores and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Next one. So this was when you were a pupil. What was your favourite subject at school?
Well, I'm going to have to say history, aren't I?
Yeah.
It's going to be history.
Is that so? Did you have a teacher at school that inspired you to become like a history teacher, or what was the reason?
Yeah, so I had a history teacher at school who was an outstanding teacher, and I won't go too much in depth. I know he still works in the same authority as us. So
Yeah.
he's an excellent teacher. Inspired me to become a history teacher. Was always the same person. Period 1 is period 6, and that's something I try and live by all the time.
Yeah.
Always consistent, always done his best. You could tell he always worked really hard for the kids in front of him.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think most teachers would say the same thing. They probably had at least one that they try and model themselves on.
Yeah, definitely.
It's no surprise that history is your favourite subject at school. It actually was one of mine as well. I nearly became a history teacher, but I changed my mind at the last minute to do music. Anyway, on to the next one. This is the last quick fire question, and we'll get into your songs. Right, what do you think is the single best thing about this school? I know that's probably quite hard because there's a lot of good things.
Yeah. I think that the dynamic of relationships in this school is the thing that I like the best.
Yeah.
When I walk into this school, I was here a few years ago, then I came back a short time later. And the ethos, I suppose is the right word, has never really changed. When you walk in the door, there's a vibe about the place that's always very positive. Everybody always wants to say hello to you and talk to you and have a conversation. Staff, pupil, teaching staff, even the cleaning staff or the office staff, whoever it is, they're all
janitors as well.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's. It feels like a community. It feels like a really good community in this school.
I think that's well been one of the school values. I think actually is, often I think schools sometimes say the school values and it's hard to see it in action, but I think community in this school is really, really evident.
Definitely,
and, you're absolutely right there. Like it's hard to walk down a corridor in this school without somebody saying hello.
Yeah.
And I think that's the single best thing is the fact that people genuinely make me feel happy when I come into the work
Definitely.
here. And every day I come into this, like I've had jobs in the past where you don't really can't be bothered coming into this school, but every day I wake up with a smile on my face knowing that I'm coming in here because of the pupils and the staff that work here.
Yeah,
and I'm sure
definitely.
that'll-
They're just. it's just so happy to walk in somewhere and just know you're appreciated and know that you appreciate the people that are working with you, and it is as a community. That's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And long may it continue. So that's the quick fire questions. Now we're on to the real reason that we're here, and this is your 3 songs, right? So I went up and asked you about this a couple of days ago. Did you find it hard to narrow it down to 3?
I did. I'd kind of decided on 1 or 2, and then when I had 1 or 2, then I all of a sudden had 5 or 6. So then it was kind of jumping between a number of songs. It took me a while to narrow it down to the 3, though.
It's tough, isn't it? It's a hard question. And see these 3 songs, right? Coming back to the Last Meal on Earth thing, if on your last day on Earth, would this be 3 songs that you would play? Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And obviously, like, it's a hard one because it'd be in the next few hundreds of years there'll be loads of new songs that come out.
Yeah.
But, like, aye. So these are your sort of desert island discs.
Yeah,
if
almost.
you will.
Desert Island Discs. No copyright.
Format
but,
we've totally not ripped off.
But yeah, I would say that those would be the songs that I would listen to, and they're probably the songs I listen to most often. I would say as well.
Most frequently on the Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah,
Apple
definitely.
Music, yeah. Good. So the first one you've picked is Sit Down by James.
Yep.
Now, don't know if you know this, but 2 of the 3 songs you've chosen, this is the first time this has happened. So this is the 15th episode of this, right? And this is the first time we've had duplications of an artist.
Right, okay.
And this is the second time a James song has been chosen,
Right,
which
okay.
I think is really surprising because I'm not
Yeah.
that well known.
Yeah, definitely not.
So you've picked Sit Down by James. One of the other ones is also somebody else has done another Clash song, which we'll come to soon. But so you've picked Sit Down by James, and on Sean's episode he did another James song as well. So why did you choose this one? What is it you like about it?
So there's a number of things. There's the kind of the musical aspect to me, and then there's also the personal aspect to me with this song. So the musical aspect, I think that one of the eras of music that I've kind of fell off the back of, probably because I grew up with parents who came of age in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So bands that were around your Britpop, Manchester, Stone Roses, Oasis,
So late
Blur.
80s into the 90s, yeah.
I would say that there's all of those bands, and I think the Stone Roses are probably one of the bands that that are most influential in this country. But I think personally that there would be no Stone Roses if there wasn't a James before them.
I think you're absolutely right.
They were coming away with those songs 4 or 5 years before Stone Roses were, the Happy Mondays were, or anyone like that. So the musical aspect of it is fantastic. It's also a song that I can remember being played when I was very young. It's an early memory of music. I can remember it being on a CD. Distinctly remember the CD being in my dad's car, and it had little painted lilies on it.
Every single time it comes back to my dad's car, no matter
yeah,
who's a guest on
it's
this.
always the dad's car. And I remember as well in the living room we had the 12-inch single, and it's so if I had to pick a version of this song, it would be the 12-inch single, which sounds really nerdy, but I'll accept it.
Yeah.
It's got a picture of a football player standing like this in the front, and it's a but the personal aspect of why I love this song so much is my dad tried to get me into going to concerts, and I loved going to concerts. But when I was maybe 11, 12-ish, I was young.
Very early high school, P7, S1.
Yeah. I was young to be going to a music festival, but he took me, I think, probably so that he had somebody to go with. But I didn't really enjoy myself the first day, I'm not going to lie to you.
Is that Tea in the Park?
Tea in the Park, yeah. It's a blast from the past at Tea in the Park.
So the last Tea in the Park, I think, was 2016?
Yeah, that should have been 2008, 9 maybe. That's
a time loads of people would remember well, with that era of guitar music.
Yeah, that era of guitar music was excellent, and all the bands that were playing it were bands that you think now they wouldn't be headlining festivals.
Yeah,
and
there's people like Razorlight and like the Cooks and stuff like that. Yeah,
bands like that were constantly headlining that festival, and then it kind of changed into a different thing, and then it changed into, I suppose, Transmit's.
Yeah, Transmit's kind of taken over the sort of mantle of the biggest Scottish music festival. Aye, so you went and seen James at that. And
so
then
first day I didn't really enjoy myself too much. I thought this is a lot for an 11, 12-year-old to handle.
Yeah.
And then I went to see, my dad said, right, okay, we're going to go and see whatever band it was. In fact, I can remember it was the Specials, ska music. So not a genre I'm mad into, but good band. And then he says, right, we'll go see James. And then if you're still not feeling it, we'll go home. And at that point I was just bitten and I had the bug that
Yeah.
I had to stay. I'd stayed the rest of the day, and then I went back every year until it was defunct.
And did you go, as you got to the later years, did you start going with friends and stuff like that, or was it always a family?
It was always my
based
dad
thing?
I went with. It was
Oh, nice.
always
I
him
like
I went
that.
with. It was, and there was, I remember him saying to me when I was younger, it's going to be a time when you'll probably want to go with your friends, but
Yeah.
I've actually now passed that point again, and I'm starting going with my dad to things again, which is a really
It's so funny
a
you
weird
should say that.
situation.
It's funny how you go through that cycle as you grow up, isn't it? How like you get to an age when you think, I'm too cool to do this now with my folks, and then as you get into your 20s, maybe mid-20s, you come back and go, actually, it's funny how your relationship with your parents changes as you get older, and that's something I've noticed a lot because I don't live with them anymore. I live a long way away from them now, but whenever I go back, it's a weird you don't know, you just how time moves so quickly without getting too deep about it. But yeah, so this song you've picked originally came out in 1989. Did a wee bit of Googling about it. So the original one I think was 8.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And then they cut it down and changed some of the lyrics and re-released it. And what I really like about it actually is the sort of chorus, the sit down kind of arms around everybody's shoulders type sort of thing is really good for singing along like at a place like Tina Park. But when you look at some of the lyrics more, they're very kind of dark actually.
Yeah.
And I wrote down some of my favourite ones on here on the other sheet. So some of them, like if I hadn't seen such riches, I could live with being poor. They're a really good song.
Yeah,
a really good lyric. That.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best lyrics I would say ever written.
Yeah, I've seen people that have that tattooed and stuff like that. It's cool. And then some of them that are quite dark, like I'll sing myself to sleep. A song from The Darkest Hour, I think, is the opening line actually.
Yeah.
And then there's it's hard to carry on when you feel all alone. It's very kind of powerful. But then there's also the sort of triumphant message in the chorus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like that kind of contrast.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that kind of contrast in music as well, when there's that sort of darkness, but also the triumphant return. It's something that I think is an incredibly powerful message that comes across in a lot of music.
Absolutely. And I particularly like the post-chorus breakdown when it goes into the sit down next to me bit where they say like sort of those that, I can't remember the specific words, but then they sort of build
Those
it up.
who find themselves ridiculous.
Yeah. And then it's in love and fear and hate and tears, and they repeat that, and then it goes back into another chorus. It's just a good one. And I actually when I was Googling this, remember this song. So I used to play in a wedding band when I was at uni, and we made a promo video. And this was the first song on our promo video.
All right.
And we filmed a video of us playing it to try and get more gigs and stuff. And we went to a beach in West Kilbride. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So we had to play that song live on the beach while loads of people were like making sandcastles and walking dogs behind us. So I had to park up like in the town and drag all our gear and set a full drum kit up on the beach in the middle of the sand.
Okay.
And I had to play along to our own like mime along to our own recording of it in the studio.
So you weren't playing it? It was mimed?
So we'd recorded like the actual like audio that goes with the video separately, then we had to go and mime it, and a friend of ours like filmed it and everything, but they ended up trying to actually play it live, like playing a drum kit in the middle of the beach in West Kilbride. So it brought back a good memory of that. I really like that song. Well known, timeless as well.
Yeah,
like,
timeless. Yeah.
Although it came out in '89, it's still like people, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds just now would probably
They know
most
it.
of them would know that song.
And if that song was released today, I don't think that people would think it was dated in any way, shape, or form. It's people know it and people love it still. It's a great song. James still tour with it. Like,
So they do, yeah, that's right. And I think they've kind of had periods of like hiatuses and stuff, but I think I'm sure they're back now, still going. I'm interested to see what your opinion is on this, because it's something I've always thought of. So see songs like that and other songs that came out of the Stone Roses Oasis movement, they are timeless.
Yeah.
In meaning that now we're going to listen to it and probably in 20 years it's the same. But the songs that you are released, like literally released this year, I wonder do you think they'll have the same longevity as the songs that came out, in the era you've talked about there?
It's hard to say. I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things is that you always think of these periods of time as having excellent music, but there was a pile of rubbish released that time. It's just we don't listen to it anymore, so it's just we filter out all the terrible stuff, and then
it's funny how nostalgia clouds your judgment.
Yeah,
and
it does,
removes all things that are bad.
Absolutely, it does. That's it. Nostalgia does cloud your judgment. Makes you think that everything was so rosy in the 80s.
I always think about that when it's like whenever you're having a tough time in work, and it was so much easier being a pupil in school, wasn't it? But then when you actually think about it, you probably forget about all the annoying bits.
You do.
But yeah, I think one of the things about music that's released now is a lot of artists that produce it themselves and write themselves, and it's all kind of organic. I think they will stand the test of time.
Definitely.
But if you look at a lot of the charts today, a lot of it's ghost written by some of the same people.
Yeah.
And it's quite manufactured.
Yeah,
so
it's
maybe
manufactured and just very formulaic. There's nothing. it could be written by anybody. There's nothing powerful in it.
Unique
There's nothing that
about
hits
our
you.
individual.
I think one of the things that all of these songs done at one point in my life that I've mentioned have all kind of knocked me for six and thought, wow, that's an experience. I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of chart music doesn't do that.
Yeah,
There is still songs that do it though.
Yeah, it's music for the gym or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's not quite got the same level
Definitely.
of impact. Speaking of which, that takes us quite neatly into another artist who I know has had a big impact on your life,
Yep.
and that's a band called Frightened Rabbit,
Yeah.
who have released, is it 4 albums, you said?
5.
5 albums, yeah.
5, yeah.
Came around early 2000s as well,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
definitely.
And then and they released a lot of really kind of critically acclaimed music. So what song did you go for from them as your second song?
So the song I chose was a song called Things. Now, that could have been a collection of different songs, but I went with Things because it was the first song by Frightened Rabbit I actually heard.
Yeah.
Even though it's from their third album, actually, it's a song that just resonates with me in some way. I don't know why. It's very difficult to put my finger on why I like that song so much, but it's always one I come back to when I'm trying to. When I'm sitting on my own, I like to listen to that song. It's a really, really powerful song.
Do you remember the situation when you first heard it, like where you were or what time it was or what you were doing? Or I
can remember where I was. I remember sitting at my dining room table and one of my friends sending me it. One of my friends for school. I would have been teenager, 15, 16.
And did he just send you the link?
Sent me a link to it on YouTube, and I clicked on it. I thought, that is just fantastic. That's just different. It was really powerful. It was raw. It was very honest.
That's the right word, raw.
Yeah, it's raw. It's not overproduced at all. It's unapologetically. He's a Scottish singer. He sings with his accent. He sings how he feels.
Yeah,
he doesn't really cover it up at all. How things are.
I love
it's
that.
Very truthful.
I like that about a lot of other Scottish alternative rock bands. People like Franz Ferdinand and maybe also Twin Atlantic and stuff like that. And when they sing it, you can hear maybe not so much Franz Ferdinand, but Biffy Clyro or whatever. You can hear the Scottish accent coming through. And I think as well, a lot of the Frightened Rabbit stuff they did produce themselves or they recorded it themselves, and you can tell it's done maybe in one take rather than we talked about overproducing stuff earlier. Like it's very raw and it's all about the lyric and the guitar chord and everything's played just properly live, you know.
Yeah.
And the band came around from a place called Selkirk, I think, is where. So it's 2 brothers are the main ones.
Scott and Grant. Grant's a drummer,
and Scott's the songwriter and singer. They started. I think they moved to Glasgow later on. And then fleshed the band out from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, speaking to Mr. Medic about this today, and said you were coming on, and said he's picked a Frightened Rabbit song, and Mr. Medic went to school with the guy that plays the guitar.
Oh, I did not know that.
Frightened Rabbit, yeah.
Fantastic.
You
I did
below
not
him
know
in
that.
school. Interesting fact. Suppose this is probably the more natural thing to talk about. That we'll come back to the specific song in a wee second. But Frightened Rabbit stopped in 2018.
Yeah.
And this made a lot of news at the time when Scott Hutchinson, the singer and the songwriter, unfortunately took his own life. And I think that's something that's probably worth talking about because us in the position that we are in this school can be very supportive towards people who are going through a tough time. And I think it's important we address that as well. So Scott died in 2018, took his own life, despite having a successful career by all accounts. And when you look back through a lot of his lyrics, he discusses a lot of his pain that he's going through. And I just think it's hard, it's a tough one to approach and talk about, but I think it's so important that we try and raise awareness of issues that are going on.
Definitely. It's something that I know that the band, the rest of the band would be wanting people to push that issue. Something that they've started a charity for that purpose. To raise awareness with mental health problems. Anyone who's struggling should be reaching out. The support out there for people. Especially a lot of young people have difficulty handling a lot of issues, but there's massive support out there. And I want to make sure people reach out to them. And obviously the band have done a lot of great work as well with other bands from the area. Twilight Sad, for example, are one of the bands that have done a huge amount for Tiny Changes as well. Yeah,
it's incredible the work that people do. And I think things are good now in terms of like people probably are more open than they were maybe 10 years ago. Thinking back to when we were pupils at school, I think the culture has changed now, and I
100%.
think young people in particular are more open about problems. But I think it's still worth remembering that like this has been maybe a bit of a cliche, but whenever you ask someone how they're doing, often they'll say, "Oh, I'm fine," but then maybe just having a wee double check and saying like, "How are you actually doing?" Because people wear a mask. Everybody wears a mask to a certain extent, myself included, probably. But I just think when we look back at the legacy of Frightened Rabbit, I think one thing the family would want us to think about is that, you know, we can make a difference and everybody can make a difference, and being open about that is the first step to helping things. And music, in my opinion, is one of the best ways of coping.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree totally.
Listening to it, playing the guitar for both of us probably, and I know that from what you read about Scott, him channeling his thoughts, his lyrics was often, you know, a therapy for him.
100%.
But yeah, coming back to the specific song, so your friend sent you the
link,
tape of it, and immediately you were just hit by how raw it was.
Yeah, I was hit by how raw it was, and then the album must have not been long out. In fact, I couldn't tell you how, but the album had been released because I went on to. At that time, it was iTunes. This is before Spotify. This is me showing my age here. But this is before Apple Music, Spotify, and anything. So I went on and bought the album. I bought the whole album and then listened to it start to finish. And I think with Frightened, that's actually track number 1 on the album. On the album Winter of Mixed Drinks. It's one of the things that I love about albums is listening to them the way that the artist intended them, because a lot of time the track listing's put in such a way that the artist has made that, but we want to just shuffle the songs and listen to them
for the singles, bang, bang.
But I think that's things is just such a great opener to that album, because it really sets a tone for that album, which is quite melancholic, but it's also got other songs on it that are really triumphant and really
agreed. Yeah,
it's one of the things that's very heartbreaking about the situation, about what happened to Scott Hutchison. It was you could see the triumphant ideas that he had, and how in some ways he conquered many of the demons that he had, but in other ways obviously hadn't. But
what I really like about it is the last 30 seconds or so of the song seems to be quite just not noise, but it just sort of is like quite like it's not clear what actually is happening. It's just like a ringing out guitar. There's odd kind of wee bits and bobs, and it's like the end of it. Then it just seamlessly comes at the next track of the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's quite cleverly done. Like we talked about the track listing. I really like the wee thing that happens in the snare drum as well. Just when I was listening to it, it's like a wee build up rhythm they do after verse 2, I think it is, and then it comes back to that. And it's like layers, and it just sort of teases you where it's going to go, and then. Just really clever songwriting and really good techniques.
I think you can see a lot of the influence for bands like Mogwai, for example, like really instrumental, kind of post-rock, experimental stuff that they're maybe trying to put in without being in that way sort of over the top.
Just adding influences, it's good. It's good, I like that. And I like the fact that you can see the influences, but it's in their own way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I imagine Fighting Rabbit are a band that people that would be watching this probably aren't that familiar with.
Yeah, I think probably because the younger audience as well wouldn't be as familiar with them because of their age and because of when they disbanded. They've never really... There will definitely be people who've heard of them, but I think it would be less than 10 years ago, because they were quite a sizable band at that point. People knew about them, but...
Aye, and like what you're saying about earlier, I think when we were teenagers, it was or even younger than that, it was your bands that were headlining festivals, and it was bands that were in the charts, and it was bands who were in HMV when you'd buy CDs, but now it's not really like that. So to discover artists like this, you need to maybe look a bit more alternative. Yeah,
you need to go off on the side paths a lot to get the bands like that, because you don't see bands in, well, you don't see HMV anymore very much. You
not
don't
much at all.
And many people won't really have. They'll have their Apple Music or their Spotify or whatever it is they use, but they won't be shopping for albums. And it's sometimes I think in one way it's really, really nice for kids and young people growing up in that, because they've got access to a multitude of music that we probably didn't have the access to at that age, but they also probably they're hindered by the fact that things are pushed on them by maybe an advert or whatever, however algorithms push songs towards people.
It's amazing how that works now, isn't it? It's just things that we never really had, and it's so we were raised for little men. but like no, it's that thing as well, in that there's so much more available now. Everything becomes a bit cluttered, and it's harder to find what you actually like within a
it's very difficult.
You know, and although in many ways it's easier to access music, it's harder to access the music you actually like, and it's a weird problem. But anyway, we'll move on to your song number 3. So song number 2, Things by Frightened Rabbit.
Yep.
Please go and have a listen to that.
Yeah.
The lyrics are really, really good and well worth listening to. And we'll move on to song number 3. So this one is the second one that we've had the duplication of an artist for the first time. So on Mirren's podcast, the second ever one, she picked a song by The Clash. So she picked Complete Control.
Complete Control is a great song. It did cross my mind because I knew I wanted a Clash song, but I changed my mind and put Career Opportunities.
Yeah, Career Opportunities. I really like this one. Features in the 1977 self-titled debut album. Did a wee bit of Googling as well. The song attacks the political and economic situation in England at the time. Is that what is? I know obviously as a social studies teacher.
Yeah.
Is that influencing?
Yeah, definitely.
Why you chose it?
It's. I think that in many ways, a lot of punk rock songs are really like historical documents because they're attacks or they are sometimes even satirical kind of comments on what's happening in the world at the time. So then, as someone that teaches modern studies, you can look at that and see how people are reacting to the political climate. So obviously that's a kind of very working class reaction to politics in Britain
the state of affairs in the time.
And during the late 70s, early 80s. But moreover, looking back at it, you can see it as a historical document. You can see,
it's
like,
a source, isn't it?
it's a source almost. Yeah, it's a source, and it does give a really good indication of how people were feeling, particularly people from that kind of place, from that class of society were feeling at that time.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I like the fact it talks about, as well, the lyrics are what you could imagine someone saying on the street, you know, talking about the jobs that were like the genius of the jobs. I think it makes a reference to a bus driver and a ticket inspector and stuff like that. And you could imagine people having the conversations like that in a pub or in a post office or something like that, or in the bank. And it's almost like punk. What I like about punk music is that it's almost like music's just a vehicle to channel the anger and the thought. It's not really as much about the actual music as such.
Yeah, it's not about flashy guitar music or having really, really fancy stuff. And don't get me wrong, I love that, as we spoke about already. I love the kind of guitar stuff and the drums and everything that goes along with it. But I think you're right, it's a vehicle. That's
it's a medium for passing on what people want you to listen to.
Yeah.
So do you remember the first time you encountered this song?
I'd be lying if I said yes. I couldn't tell you the first time I heard the song, but I can remember the first time listening to The Clash. I can remember that. I was very young, very, very young. I'd been maybe 5 or 6. Yeah. And I remember being out playing football or whatever it is, riding my bike in the street or whatever. Yeah. And coming into the house and my dad being not upset, but visibly, upset, I would say, actually. Yeah. And I said, what's the matter? Are you okay? Type thing. And he said a really important person had just passed away, Joe Strummer, the lead singer of The Clash. This
would be what, 2004, 3, 4?
Roughly about then, so I'd have been 6, 7 maybe. Yeah. So I'd have been too young to really understand who they were, far too young. And I can remember then in the following days, that was his kind of playlist that was all Clash songs. So that's probably the first time I heard that, because that would have been what he'd grown up in. He'd have been kind of my age. He'd have been 10, 11, 12. Like
growing up when they were up there.
Yeah, in their peak. 77, so that's probably one of the earliest things. In fact, that's probably their first album.
Their first. So I think they formed in 76 officially, and then that came out the year after. So it was right at the kind of start of their journey.
Album. There's also the other version in the Sad and East album. It's the children singing it, which I've always liked because they. It's almost as if it's like a school choir singing, and I've always found that quite funny because it's the way that it's as if that the kids are talking to their parents or to people, but getting a point across, and it's how they're kind of listening to the youth and listening to how they feel. Yeah.
So when your dad was emotional on the day that so Joe Strummer's the lead singer and the guitarist, when he died, did he then say, "This is their music"?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it was maybe more passive than that. Maybe it was that he was just kind of listening to it.
And it was always on.
And it was on. And I can distinctly remember him saying that, and I don't know why I can remember that so well, but I just remember thinking that's really, really important, obviously, to him. And then as I grew up, it was kind of, that became important to me, because as I went through high school, The Clash were probably my favourite band. And even to this day, I would regard them as one of the
Definitely.
greatest bands that have ever been.
Well, I think that it's not only you saying this, is also the critics that say this. So in terms of statistics, they're included in like the list of 100 greatest artists of all time by Rolling Stone, came in at number 28 and the greatest of all time. That was done a few years ago when Joe Strummer died, actually. In the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, all that sort of thing. And you don't get to that level without being, widely successful. What I like about them as well is I think often people that do punk music get a wee bit of criticism for not being that technically good at their instruments. But then as they went through the career, they started dabbling in other genres a bit as well, and drawing on some R&B influences and reggae and stuff
definitely
like that.
a lot of, especially the later albums, a lot of reggae influence. That's probably also the area of London they're from as well. So massive reggae influences from round at that part. So kind of Brixton areas and all that.
Yeah, and when you look at all the great bands that ever come around, modern bands as well, things people like Arctic Monkeys, they always evolve throughout their career. And I think that's a sign of a really great band, is that from their first album to the last album, there's a sort of journey that always dabbles in something else, as opposed to just churning out the same tracks all the time.
It can be quite frustrating when you watch a band who don't release poor music, they release decent music, like good music, of a good standard, and they just churn out the same thing time after time after time, and you don't want to hear that, because I mean it's good, but it's like it can become a bit stale, and it just becomes a bit like a formula, and you're just or sometimes a band can start on a journey, then they kind of get stuck in a loop of trying to recreate this excellent album that they've done. They never do.
Cortinas trying to do it's that, Not 19 Forever for the 25th time.
Yeah, it's that can happen, and but bands like the Clash done that all throughout their career.
Always evolving, aren't they?
In fact, I think I'd probably say Frightened Rabbit's a difficult one to comment on because they've only done the 5 albums. But James have got countless albums out, and they started off as a kind of Manchester band, and then they turned into, they kind of went dance almost, and then they kind of came back to kind of alternative rock.
Different bases.
Yeah, it's a great sign. It's a sign of a great band. It's
a truly great band. It's a difference between a good band and a top tier band, I think.
Absolutely.
And on one of these episodes, I'll try and do one of the greatest bands of all time. And I think that if we established criteria for it, I think that has to be up there for describing your kind of best. And I think there's something to be said about that evolving in several different workplaces, and as a teacher, as a sports, an athlete. The truly great people are adapting and evolving all the time, and they're never quite happy they never think they've achieved anything. There's always somewhere else to go, somewhere else to explore.
Yeah, good isn't good if it can be better.
100%, that's inspiring motto, words to live by. And that's rounding us off for the third song. So song number 3, Career Opportunities by The Clash. I love the rawness again of it, like from Frightened Rabbit, and just the realism of the lyrics, which is still relatable, I think, to the UK in 2023.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's a really good song to listen to for people that are maybe interested in politics as well.
Yeah.
And you'll see how how the establishment works and all that sort of thing through music. Right, just to finish us off, we've got one wee extra section to this. So. First one is there's 2 really bits to this. The first one is like favourite gigs you've been to over the course of your life. If you've got maybe like maybe a gold, silver, bronze type thing for favourite gigs ever, or just a number one. I know it's a hard question off the cuff.
So I've already spoken about James being a really important concert. That was the kind of midway through a festival. Frightened Rabbit I've seen a number of times, but I can remember seeing the Barrowlands in Glasgow, and that being the most.
I think I remember you telling me that a wee while ago, actually. Yeah.
It was just a really intense concert. It was because if you know the venue yourself, people don't know, it's a really tight, small venue, and it's almost claustrophobic that way. And it's really loud, and the wall of sound that you were getting hit by. It was. And you could feel the intensity from the band, the energy and everything. I would also probably mention the Pixies as well.
Oh yeah. Were they
so I've seen them a couple of times. I've seen them in the Barrowland, but I actually seen them in the Kelvin Grove bandstand during the summer. So that's,
was that the sort of summer sessions?
Yeah, summer sessions. Yeah, and I thought that was just such an amazing concert. That they are. Them and The Cure are the 2 bands that I've seen live that I would say you could not tell the difference between listening to them and the record and then listening. That's a testament to how outstanding they are. Their craft, because some of The Cure and the Pixies are not like it's not simple music that
Oh,
they play.
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
incredibly
There's complexity
complex.
in there, yeah.
And they played that as if it was on.
As if you were listening to it.
Yeah.
I think that's also, I'm talking about greatest bands of all time, I think that's also a factor as well.
gotta
Like,
be.
and if you've got to be really, really good live,
Yeah.
and that, especially when you're playing the level of difficulty that
Yeah.
the bands that you're talked about there. Good. Have you got any other gigs planned for this year, like over the summer, or anything else you're going to go and see?
Yeah, so I'm going to see Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
That's next week. So
Down in London?
No, Murrayfield.
Murrayfield.
Murrayfield. Yeah.
That'll be incredible.
So I'm looking forward to that.
You going with your dad as well?
I'm going with my dad. Yeah. So I've
Brilliant.
never seen Springsteen before, but
That'll be iconic.
neither's
that one.
he. Neither's he. Every time that he's came round, there's always been something. But it's that way that it's like I need to tick a box and say I've seen Bruce
See, you've
Springsteen.
seen him live, and it might not be many more opportunities
Yeah,
to see that.
because you don't know how he doesn't tour all that often, and then he doesn't.
especially in Scotland as well.
Yeah, I know. It's and then with everything, with work and everything, it's very difficult to sometimes maybe get away to London or get away
Exactly.
to wherever it is
Yeah.
to see. So
Plus, COVID as well has stopped all that
Yeah,
for
it
so long.
stopped
There's
a
like
huge
this
amount.
backlog, and you feel like, again, people maybe of our age have missed a kind of important time. We go, I missed that.
I know. I miss
stuff
Cat
booked.
Stevens during COVID.
Yeah.
He's never re-announced a tour, and it's the thought of he's getting quite old now. So it's like maybe he'll hang up the guitar for one point and
Yeah.
say I'm not going to bother.
I know.
I might not get the chance. And Roger Waters as well.
Yeah.
So I've got to see him. I've got to see Roger Waters from Pink
brilliant.
Floyd.
Excellent.
Looking forward to that. That's my two big my big
Excellent.
blowouts for concerts.
You're going to
because
say you're not going for a small time.
No,
you're going
I'm-
for
I'm going
great,
big.
the legend
yeah,
sort of era.
I need to see I've done it.
Aye, brilliant, good stuff, excellent. So we'll finish off with one thing, and this is just something we've said to pupils before, but it's interesting to maybe get a teacher's perspective on this, just to round us off. So it's the number one piece of advice you'd give to someone starting this school. So we had P7s actually up today, having a look about and posted about. So if you could say like one sentence to them or one parting kind of message for them beginning their high school journey, what would you say to them?
It's a difficult question. It's a good question, but I would always say that people should be trying their best, because if you try your best, you come into school every day and you leave everything, as we say in sports, leave everything on the park or leave everything in the class. Then if you've done that, then that's the most you can do, and then nobody can say anything to you. That's all we would say.
100%.
Come in, try your best, give it all your all. Even if you're not the most naturally fantastic at something, you're going to find something you are naturally really good at.
Exactly.
But if you put all your effort into it, then you'll look better than people that are naturally fantastic that are not trying.
100%, and no one will ever criticise you if you try your best.
No,
that's the
definitely
thing.
not. It's the teachers in here. We all strive to try our best.
Yeah.
Or we'll try our best. Sorry, and we strive to make people as good as they can possibly be. But when pupils try their best as well, it's just it's harmonious almost. It works in a way that they're getting the most out of you and you're getting the most out of them, and it all just that's when it clicks into place, I think.
100%, and that's when we're come back to what we talked about earlier about the community of this school. I think teachers and pupils are very much on the same page in this school.
Yeah, definitely.
When things are clicking well, and that's how real success is achieved. And success is different; it's relative to you as well. Like somebody's success could be 5 A's in the hires, but that's not going to be the same success for another person.
Yeah, success is absolutely relative. It depends
Exactly.
on what you're wanting to do and how you envisage your or what you're looking to achieve. So if you can set your goal and don't set it low and try and hit it, set it as high as you possibly can and aim for it.
And take one day at a time and just try your best, and you'll not go far wrong.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
this.
you.
I know
Thank
you're
you.
a busy guy, and I really appreciate you giving up your time.
Thank you so much.
No problem, to come and chat to us. And hopefully you'll be the first of many teachers. I couldn't think of a better person to start though.
Thank
so
you very
I'm
much.
genuinely
Thank you.
really enjoyed chatting to you.
No, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
See you again soon. Cheers.
See you later. Bye.